The Johnsons had been planning this vacation for months. After back-to-back 12-hour shifts, endless school projects, and the grind of everyday life, they were finally here, to rest, to breathe, to just be a family. But within hours, paradise would turn into a nightmare. And it would all begin with a single glance. A suspicious stare. A silent judgment. And a 911 call that should have never been made. Because someone didn't see a family. They saw a threat. And they had no idea who they were really dealing with. Scene 1, The Arrival. Music is upbeat. The family checks into the beachside resort. Dad, Brian Johnson, late 40s, calm, confident, a quiet authority. Mom, Letitia Johnson, mid-40s, radiant, sharp, protective. Daughter, AR, 15, bubbly but observant. Son, Marcus, 12, playful and curious. They roll their luggage past the pool. Other guests glance at them, some friendly, others, not so much. Scene 2, The Call. Later that day. The family walks back from the beach, towels in hand, laughter in the air. A hotel guest, middle-aged woman with a clenched jaw, watches from her balcony. She whispers into her phone. Woman, on phone. Yes, I'm at the Clearwater Dunes Resort. There's a group of people here. They don't look like they belong. Yes. All black. One of them is acting suspicious. Might be drugs involved. She's lying. And she knows it. Scene 3, The Confrontation. Sirens. Squad cars pull up. Vacationers stop and stare. The Johnsons freeze as two white officers approach. Officer 1. Excuse me, folks. We got a report about some suspicious activity. Mind showing us some ID? Brian. Suspicious activity? We just came back from the beach, what exactly did we do? Officer 2, aggressive. Don't get smart. Hands where we can see them. Everyone. Letitia. This is harassment. We didn't do anything. Officer 1. Ma'am, if you don't cooperate. They grab Brian's arm. Ari screams. Marcus backs away. A camera phone starts recording. The bystanders murmur. Brian doesn't resist. But his voice is measured. Controlled. Ice cold. Brian. You have 10 seconds to let go of my arm, or this is going to become a federal case. Officer 2 laughs. Yeah. And who's gonna make it one? Brian calmly reaches into his wallet. Pulls out a badge. The gold glint catches the sun. FBI. Special agent in charge, Counterintelligence Division. Everything goes silent. Scene 4, The Turn. The officers backpedal. Officer 1, nervous. Sir, we didn't know. We were just responding to a call. Brian. No. You weren't responding to a call. You were responding to your bias. Letitia. In front of our children. On vacation. Ari, quietly. You were going to arrest us for being black. Scene 5, Accountability. The video of the incident hits the internet that night. 2 million views in 6 hours. Hashtags trend. Hashtag vacation while black. Hashtag FBI while black. Hashtag justice for the Johnsons. The Clearwater Police Department is forced to issue a public apology. The woman who made the false call is banned from the property. The officers are placed under investigation. But Brian isn't satisfied with apologies. He files a formal civil rights complaint. He holds a press conference, not as an agent, but as a father. Brian, press conference. My badge didn't protect me. My suit and title didn't protect me. They didn't see an agent. Or a father. Or a citizen. They saw black skin, and decided that was enough. Scene 6, the aftermath. The Johnsons finished their vacation, on their own terms. Together. On the same beach. Brian walks hand in hand with his wife. Their kids build a sandcastle nearby. But things are different now. Not broken. Not bitter. But awakened. Brian Johnson spent his life protecting this country from threats, foreign and domestic. But he never expected the threat would come from behind a badge. Let this be a reminder. Justice isn't just about what laws say. It's about who they protect. And who they presume guilty. The world is watching. And the tide is turning. Scene 7, back to WRK Washington, D.C., 2 weeks later. Brian Johnson walks through the secure corridors of the Hoover Building. Fellow agents pause to nod in respect. But there's a weight behind his eyes. His usual rhythm, quick, methodical, precise, is a touch slower today. He steps into the conference room for a morning briefing. The room quiets. Director, calmly, Agent Johnson. Before we begin, on behalf of this agency, we want to say that what happened to you and your family was unacceptable. Brian, thank you. But this isn't just about me. It's about the millions who don't carry this badge, who don't get the luxury of revealing a title to stop the violence. A beat of silence. Heads nod slowly. The message hits. Scene 8, a conversation with his son. Back home. Late evening, Brian sits on the porch with Marcus. The moon casts soft shadows. Marcus, Dad, were you scared? When the cops grabbed you? Brian, honest, yeah. I was. Not for me. For you. For your sister. For your mother. Marcus, I hate them. Brian, firm, no. Don't give them that power. You can be angry. You should be. But hate. That poisons you. Marcus, quietly, then what do I do with the anger? Brian, turn it into change. Speak up. Get educated. Protect your future. Make them see you. The real you. Scene 9, school presentation. 1 month later. Ari's school, she stands in front of her class, voice shaking at first but growing stronger. Ari, my family was stopped by police, because someone thought we didn't belong. But we did. And we always will. The room is silent. Then a slow clap begins. Even her teacher wipes away a tear. Scene 10, national attention. Brian is invited to a national town hall on policing and bias. He sits across from lawmakers, activists, and law enforcement leaders. Moderator, Agent Johnson, what would you say to officers watching this now? Brian. Your job is to protect and serve. But if your first instinct when you see someone who looks like me is fear, then the training failed. And so did the humanity. He pauses. Brian, we can change policies. We can train better. But what we really need to change, is the lens. Scene 11, the woman who called. The woman who falsely reported the Johnsons appears in a short news segment. She refuses interviews but releases a statement. Statement, on screen, I didn't mean for things to go so far. I acted on instinct. I'm sorry. The public doesn't accept the apology. But the Johnsons never ask for revenge. Letitia, to press, we don't need her shame. We need her to learn. And never do it again. Scene 12, reform in motion. A bill is introduced at the state level, the Johnson Act, to penalize false emergency calls based on race. Brian testifies. Brian, testimony, this isn't about punishing people for fear. It's about holding people accountable for weaponizing it. The bill passes the House. Nationwide interest grows. Scene 13, full circle. Back at the same beach, 1 year later, the Johnsons return. Not to relive the pain, but to reclaim the joy. Marcus runs into the waves. Ari films on her phone. Brian and Letitia share a quiet smile. Brian, VO, they tried to define us with fear. But we define ourselves with love, truth, and resilience. Camera pans to a crowd of diverse families on the beach. Narrator, VO. Not all heroes wear capes, some carry badges, some carry wounds, but the greatest strength is standing tall when the world tries to push you down. Justice isn't always found in courtrooms. Sometimes, it's found in courage. And in choosing to rise, again and again. Scene 14, the training room. FBI Academy, Quantico, weeks later. Brian stands before a group of fresh recruits, presenting a seminar titled, Bias in the Field. He paces slowly, holding a worn police body cam in one hand. Brian. This was mine. It recorded evidence, confessions. And once, it recorded fear. Not from the criminal across from me. But from an officer pulling me out of my car, with my children in the back seat. The room is silent. Brian. If you see color before you see character, badge or not, you're a liability, not an asset. One recruit, a young Latino woman named Officer Rivera, raises her hand. Officer Rivera. Sir, what if we do everything right, and still get it wrong? Brian nods, steps closer. Brian. Then own it. Learn. And never make the same mistake twice. That's how we rebuild trust. Scene 15, Marcus at school. High school debate club, late afternoon. Marcus stands nervously, facing a packed room. His topic, justice in America. Marcus. I used to think justice was a courtroom. A badge. A title. But now I know, it's how you treat people when you think no one's watching. He scans the audience and locks eyes with his teacher, who'd once dismissed him as unfocused. The teacher stands and claps first. Scene 16. Letitia's own voice. Community center meeting, evening. Letitia stands at a town hall forum for mothers affected by racial profiling. Letitia. I wasn't just scared that night. I was humiliated. My kids saw their father on the ground. Not because he broke a law, but because someone thought we didn't belong. Another mother weeps in the audience. Letitia steps down and hugs her. A community begins to heal, together. Scene 17, the officer who hesitated. Back in Florida, Officer Daniel Cole stares at his badge in the mirror. He was one of the arresting officers. Cut 2. Daniel standing in front of a disciplinary board. Daniel. I was wrong. I didn't stop it. I knew something felt off. I froze. That hesitation cost lives. I'll carry that. He's suspended, but not fired. The panel cites his willingness to come forward, cooperate, and speak truth. Later, he emails Brian. Email on screen. You don't owe me anything, but I owe you the truth. Thank you for staying calm when I didn't. Brian doesn't reply, but he saves the message. Scene 18, National Ripple Effect. Multiple cities. Montage of headlines. The Johnson Act passes in 5 more states. 911 reform gains bipartisan support. FBI agent speaks out on CNN town hall, it's not just one bad apple. Cut 2. Classrooms using Ari's school presentation as a case study. Podcasts dissecting systemic bias. Churches, mosques, synagogues, discussing allyship. Scene 19, a small victory. Local Florida Police Department. A new mural goes up in the department's public space, trust, accountability, community. Below it, a list of reforms the department has now implemented, due in part to national attention from the Johnson case. In one corner, Brian's name is listed, not as a hero, but as a catalyst. Scene 20, Family Healing. Back at home, the Johnsons gather for dinner. No cameras. No speeches. Just family. Ari. Can we go back to the beach again next year? Letitia. Yes. Every year. We don't run from places. We reclaim them. Marcus, smiling. Next time, I'm bringing a speaker. We're dancing. They all laugh. Scene 21, Final voiceover, epilogue montage. Voice of Brian, soft but resolute. Brian, VO. You don't have to be a federal agent to demand dignity. You don't need a title to command respect. You just have to believe you're worthy of it, and act like it every day. Montage. Ari winning a school essay contest. Marcus organizing a local youth summit. Letitia launching a non-profit for wrongly accused families. Brian training a new wave of officers, each one listening, learning. Final shot, beach sunset. The camera pulls back as the Johnson family walks the shoreline again, no fear, no apology. Just love. Narrator, VO. They came for a vacation, and walked into a nightmare. But they left a legacy. Not because of what was done to them. But because of what they chose to do next. Scene 22, FBI Policy Room, The Internal Shift. Washington, D.C., months later. A room full of senior FBI officials sits in discussion. Brian stands before a projector displaying statistics on racial profiling and use of force incidents. Brian. If we can't hold ourselves accountable behind the scenes, we can't expect the public to trust us on the streets. Deputy Director. You're asking us to change decades of doctrine. Brian. I'm asking us to change lives. Cut to. New policy directives being signed. Internal training modules revised. Officers of all ranks in seminars, listening, questioning, learning. Scene 23, a call from the President. Oval Office, a quiet afternoon. Brian stands across from the President of the United States. No press. Just two men in conversation. President. I read your testimony. Your restraint. Your family's grace. You didn't just call for change, you inspired it. Brian, modestly. I just told the truth. It did the rest. The President nods, then offers a commendation. Brian declines a photo op. Brian. Let's not make it about me. Make it about the system that needs to be better. Scene 24, Letitia on national television. Morning show, bright studio lights. Letitia sits across from a well-known black journalist. Her hands are steady, voice calm. Journalist. You've been called the calm in the storm. Where does that strength come from? Letitia. From every black mother who's ever had to smile through fear. Who's had to protect her kids not with weapons, but with words and wisdom. The audience claps, some standing. Letitia's dignity, poise, and power ripple through living rooms across the country. Scene 25, Community Response Team, Florida Pilot Program. Town Hall Meeting, Sarasota, Florida. Inspired by the Johnsons, a pilot program begins where trained civilians accompany officers on nonviolent calls, especially involving families, mental health, or race-related tension. Moderator. This started because one man stayed calm. Let's make sure no one else has to. Cut to. A mixed group, officers, pastors, therapists, attending their first response training. Brian watches silently in the back row, then nods with quiet pride. Scene 26, Marcus leads a march. Downtown D.C., peaceful protest. Marcus, now 17, leads a youth-led march under the banner, "We Belong Here." He holds a bullhorn, walks beside other teens of color. Their chants are not angry, They are united, focused, full of power. Marcus, chanting. Not a threat. Not a stranger. I am your neighbor. Crowds join. Adults follow. The news captures it. Marcus turns, sees his father standing quietly behind the marchers, hands in his pockets, pride in his eyes. Scene 27, Ari's book. Years later, local bookstore. Ari, now in her early 20s, signs copies of her memoir, Belonging, a family's story of courage and identity. The cover shows a child on a beach, holding her father's hand. A reporter interviews her. Reporter. You were just a kid then. Why write the book? Ari. Because I want every kid who looks like me to know, your presence is not a threat. Your story matters. And your joy is worth protecting.